Chapter 1, Limits, Alternatives, and Choices, McConnell 19th edition text. What is economics? Economics is defined as a social science concerned with how individuals, institutions, and society make optimal choices under conditions of scarcity. We can break this definition down a little bit more and basically say that economics is a social science because it deals with people in society and their spending habits. And we are going to be discussing two main topics: limited resources, unlimited wants. And this study is about how to get the most out of limited resources when we have wants that are unlimited. So our resources are scarce, wants are unlimited. What do we do in situations like that? Well, in order to try to put this in perspective, we need to think like an economist. If you were to ask a lawyer a certain question, you would get the perspective of a lawyer. You ask an economist, you're going to get the perspective of an economist. You ask an accountant, you're going to get the perspective of an accountant. So I'm going to ask you, what is the economic perspective? So those are a few different key features. The key features of the economic perspective are this. We have economic resources: land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur, and these are scarce. So we must make choices when our resources are scarce. So that's number one, scarcity and choice. Number two, economists think using purposeful behavior. Economists use marginal analysis. And also, not mentioned in your PowerPoint slide, the economic perspective is outlined in slide 3, and what is not listed there is that everyone responds to incentives. So let's take all of these one by one and talk about them. What exactly does it mean when we say people respond to incentives? Well, let's think about coming to class. What is the incentive for coming to class? Well, people want an A or a B. So your incentive for coming to class is that you're going to get a good grade. Or you can apply incentives in any day-to-day situation. Your incentive to get children to do chores, maybe you're giving them money. Everyone responds to certain incentives, and you just have to figure out what that incentive is in order to get them to do that particular action. So economists realize that people respond to incentives. So first on that list, the features of the economic perspective is scarcity and choice. These economic resources are scarce, and we realize that, so we must make choices about what it is that we want. If we want one thing, we must give up more of another thing because there's only so much to go around. There's an opportunity cost involved with every choice that we make. For every opportunity, you give up something else. The opportunity cost of coming to class would be the cost of the opportunity that you gave up. Now, there's only one opportunity that you give up for every action. So for coming to class, you might have given up a chance to go to work. In the 1 hour you would be in class, you might be making $10 per hour, so your cost would be $10. Opportunity cost is not always in terms of money. You may be giving up time with a loved one. It sometimes is monetary, but sometimes it's not. Choosing a spouse is also another way that you can look at opportunity cost. What are you giving up when you choose a spouse? Well, the cost is the opportunity to marry someone else. So there's one other person that you could marry. So there's always a cost involved. There's other things involved there, but there's another opportunity that you give up. Another key economic concept is there is no free lunch, which is tied to opportunity cost. Somebody asks you to go to lunch. You'll say, hey, you want to go to lunch with me? I'm buying. And you might say, yeah, I'll go. Everybody wants a free lunch. Well, there really is no free lunch for anyone. If it looks like it's free, there really is something hidden there inside of the meaning. What does that mean exactly in economic terms? Well, if somebody is giving you something for free, it's not really free. It might be free to you, but there's a cost to somebody. And the cost is resources. If you go and you buy a pizza and you get a free Coke with it, well, it's not really free because there are resources involved with production of the Coke. The bottle, the Coke, and all of the resources that are being used to make that, you gave up an opportunity to produce something else with it. So you're wasting resources to make that. So you're giving up resources to give that free Coke to you when you could have been using those resources in another opportunity. So nothing is ever really free in economics. There's no free lunch because you're giving up a chance to use a resource for something else when you're using it for that one thing to give it free to someone. Another component of the economic perspective is rational self-interest. Economists assume that people are acting rationally and choosing something that's in their own self-interest. Well, self-interest is a term that comes from Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, 1776. Self-interest, it means that if every business is looking out for their own self-interest, it's as if an invisible hand is guiding the market system. What does it mean when it says we're acting rationally? Well, we're making the choice that's best for us. Economists are assuming that we're going to do the thing that financially is better for us and not worse for us. Individuals and utility. Utility is a term that means the happiness or satisfaction that we derive from consuming a good or service. So we're going to make the choice that makes us the happiest, and it's in our best interest. And this is, as far as businesses goes, making money, and the decision that's going to be in our best interest with the best outcome involved. If you have a choice on what government teacher to take, or what history or what English teacher to take, you're looking at what's going to have the best outcome for you. And economists assume that you're going to make the choice that's going to give you the best outcome. You're going to look out for yourself, what gives you the most happiness or satisfaction, and that you're not going to make a choice that's going to give you the worst outcome. So that's rational behavior. And rational behavior also means that everyone is going to have a different choice. Everyone makes different choices based on the circumstances. And what might be rational today might be different for you tomorrow, and it's going to vary from person to person based on utility and preferences. So what makes me happy today may not make me happy tomorrow, and what makes one person happy is not going to make the other person happy based on preferences and changes in circumstances. And the last feature of the economic perspective is marginal analysis. Economists think using the marginal benefit, marginal cost approach. When we're making decisions regarding resources and scarcity, we're going to weigh the cost and benefits of any decision. And we're always going to make sure that there's more benefit than cost to any decision. Let's just think about if we're trying to decide what doctor to go to. Say you've got Dr. A and Dr. B, and you're looking at these and you're weighing the cost and benefits. And one of the doctors has higher recommendations. He has more board certifications, and several friends have gone to this person, and this person has no negative reviews. You've looked on the doctor review websites. That's Dr. A is the best one, and Dr. A is on your medical provider plan, so it's more cost efficient. Whereas Dr. B, you know nothing about in a positive manner. There are some negative reviews on the website, and Dr. B is not on your preferred provider plan. So using the cost-benefit analysis, which one should you choose? Well, there's obviously more benefit to choosing Dr. A. So using your rational behavior, you're figuring out what would have the best outcome for you financially and personally. You would choose Dr. A. Slide 8. Economists use the scientific method. Just like any other science class, you would observe the facts, form a hypothesis, test it, either accept it, reject it, and then continue to test it. The facts you're observing would be data like income, spending, inflation numbers, and you might be looking at something like, you might form a hypothesis that says, as unemployment rises, GDP goes down. And that would be your hypothesis. And you would do some testing, and you would either accept it, reject it, or modify it. And then you would continue on and basically would go into a model based on all of that. Okay, economic principles. You've got generalizations. A generalization is when you apply something to a group of people. You might say, generally speaking, that something is true for the whole, but there's always going to be a few outliers to the group. You can apply something generally to a group, and there'll be a few that it's not true of, but you can't take behavior of one and apply it to the whole group. That does not work. What's true of one is not always true of the whole. Ceteris paribus is a term. It's a Latin phrase that means other things equal. This would be used in a situation where you were testing two things, like price and the quantity demanded of something. And this means that in doing the testing, you're going to assume that only the price is changing and the quantity demanded would be changing. And you're going to assume that all other things would be equal, or all other things would remain the same. And you're not going to allow for income changing or weather changing or any other factors changing. When in reality, other things may be changing. Like if we were looking at the price of bottled water and how much we buy, quantity demanded, and we say that as the price of bottled water falls, the quantity demanded rises. That would be true. But we could also say that there's something else that affects the quantity we demand. It's not just price and that affects the quantity demanded, because when we have a hurricane that comes through and people need water, we're going to have that. So there are other circumstances. Or like DVDs, for example, the price affects how many we buy, but if you have a change in income, you might just buy some more DVDs at full price. But we have to assume that all those other things remain the same. And for testing purposes, ceteris paribus, when the price of DVDs rises, the quantity demanded falls. That just means we're only looking at price and quantity demanded, and we're assuming that everything else is going to stay the same. Slide 9. Macro versus microeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole. Microeconomics is the study of individual units, such as the household, income, the price of particular items, and things like how a particular firm makes a profit. Examples of macro statements would be macro statements would be, the GDP of the country, because that's things that affect the economy as a whole. If I said the inflation rate rose by 0.3%, that's a macro statement. That is something that affects the economy as a whole, and one particular person can't be excluded from that number. A micro statement would be the Smith income was $20,000 this year. That's one particular household. Or the price of a 2-liter Diet Coke is 99 cents this week at Walmart. That's a micro statement. It's the price of one item, the income of one household, production point of one particular business. So microeconomics is taking particular things like you're under a microscope. Positive versus normative economics. Positive economics deals with economic facts. Normative deals with opinions about the facts. Positive is what is subjective, and normative is your subjective perspective, and it's what ought to be. So a positive statement would be GDP of the United States for 2011 was $14 trillion. It's a data fact. You can look it up. It's what is. Or if we went over to the thermostat and said the temperature in the room is 68 degrees, it's a fact. Normative would be it is too cold in here. That's my opinion about something. Or GDP of the United States should be higher. So normative is what should be or what ought to be. It's my opinion about a fact. It's not the fact. Positive economics is the fact. Normative economics is an opinion about the fact. Slide 11. We have two sets of problems in this chapter to talk about. And it's all about limits and how we deal with the limits. We've got the problem of the individual. The individual has limited income, unlimited wants. And then we have the problem of society. Society has limited resources and unlimited wants. So we'll address the problem of the individual first of all. Have you ever had the problem of not enough money? Hopefully you won't have dealt with that yet, and maybe you never will. But most of us have at some point or another dealt with limited income and needing too many things, unlimited wants, and needs as well. You may have a need list. You need some supplies for school, you need some books, you need some milk for the refrigerator. So it's not always just I want. I want a new car, I want an iPad, but I need books, I need this. And I don't have enough money. So limited income. The individuals have a budget. We have a budget line, and if you look to slide 13, you've got a budget line, and it takes a look at a budget of $120. If you've got DVDs that cost $20 and books that cost $10, it takes a look at how many DVDs and how many books you could buy with $120. And basically it takes and plots these points. You could buy 6 DVDs, 6 times 20 is 120. Or you could buy 5 DVDs, 5 times 20 is 100. And then you could buy 2 books, 2 times 10 is 20. And so it just plots the points. So the different possibilities. You could buy more books and less DVDs. This shows the concept of opportunity cost. When you go from 6 DVDs to 5 DVDs, you're getting 2 books more. So the opportunity cost of getting 2 books is 1 DVD. And when you go from 2 to 4 books, the opportunity cost is 1 DVD. So in order to get more of one thing, you've got to give up another. There's an opportunity cost involved with everything that you have in production.